The battlefield lay silent under a blanket of fog. It was the dead of night during World War I, and Private Andrew McKinley found himself on the front lines, waiting for the dawn. He had heard the stories about no man's land, the cursed stretch between the opposing trenches. Rumors circulated about soldiers who had died there, their souls trapped in a never-ending struggle. As the night dragged on, the stillness was unnerving. Andrew's heart raced as he clutched his rifle tightly, staring into the darkness. Suddenly, a distant echo of gunfire shattered the silence. The sound sent a shiver down his spine. A faint glow began to emerge from the fog ahead. Curiosity got the better of him, and he cautiously made his way toward it. As he approached, he could see shadows moving within the light, figures dressed in tattered uniforms. He rubbed his eyes, thinking he was hallucinating. But the figures grew clearer. They were soldiers, wounded, disoriented, and seemingly unaware of Andrew's presence. Some were crawling, others standing, all trapped in an eternal loop of anguish. He felt a chill as he realized these were the souls of those who had died in no man's land. "Help us," one of the soldiers cried out, his voice echoing in the fog. Andrew took a step back, feeling a deep sense of dread. "Help us escape this place," another voice begged. The weight of their despair pressed down on him, and he felt an urge to run. But his feet wouldn't move. As he watched them, the figures began to merge into one another, creating a horrific visage. A face appeared, twisted in agony, staring directly at Andrew. "Join us," it whispered, and he felt a tugging sensation in his chest. With a surge of adrenaline, Andrew finally broke free from his paralysis and sprinted back to the safety of his trench. Panting and shaking, he tried to convince his comrades of what he had seen. But they merely laughed it off, attributing it to fatigue and fear. The next morning, Andrew was sent on a raid into no man's land. As he crossed the same spot where he had seen the apparitions, he heard the voices again. "Help us," they cried. He fought back tears, realizing he could never escape their torment. As the bullets flew around him, Andrew felt a sudden pain in his chest. He looked down to see blood soaking through his uniform. In his final moments, he saw the twisted face once more, beckoning him to join the ranks of the damned. The last thing he heard was the chorus of souls, welcoming him into the fog. Moral: the horrors of war can trap souls in a never-ending cycle of suffering. It serves as a reminder that even in the darkest moments, compassion and empathy are vital, lest we become lost in our own struggles. In the midst of World War II, the small town of Wunstorf in Germany was a mere shadow of its former self. The streets, once bustling with life, were now eerily quiet. Tensions ran high as the war closed in, leaving the townspeople feeling helpless and afraid. Amidst the chaos, young Clara Becker was doing her best to protect her younger brother, Lucas. One evening, while they were scavenging for food, Clara heard whispers coming from the nearby forest. She turned to Lucas, who was wide-eyed with fear. "Should we go?" he asked, clutching her hand tightly. "Maybe there's something to help us," Clara replied, trying to sound brave. As they ventured deeper into the woods, the whispers grew louder, transforming into frantic cries for help. "Help us! Please," a voice echoed from the shadows. Clara's heart raced as she followed the sound, pulling Lucas along with her. The forest felt alive with tension, as though something dark was watching them. Finally, they stumbled upon a clearing, and what they saw made their hearts drop. A group of soldiers stood over a pile of bodies, their faces twisted in rage. "Kill them! They don't deserve to live," one soldier shouted. Clara and Lucas hid behind a tree, horrified by the scene unfolding before them. Suddenly, one soldier turned around, his eyes locking onto Clara's. "Get them," he yelled, charging toward them. They took off running, adrenaline fueling their escape. But the whispers followed them, growing louder and more desperate. "Help us! Help us!" the voices cried, sending chills down their spines. Clara and Lucas didn't stop until they reached the safety of their home. But the whispers didn't fade, they haunted them day and night. Clara's dreams became nightmares filled with the faces of the innocent, pleading for release. Each night, she felt the weight of their anguish pressing down on her. Eventually, they were forced to flee their town as the war grew closer, leaving behind the haunting memories. Years later, Clara returned to Wunstorf as a grown woman. The town was in ruins, the echoes of the past still lingering in the air. As she walked through the abandoned streets, she heard the whispers once more, now more desperate than ever. "Help us! We're still here!" Clara fell to her knees, realizing she had never truly escaped. The spirits of the innocent were forever tied to the horrors of that war, and she had become a part of their story. Moral: innocence is often lost in the chaos of war, leaving behind echoes of despair that can haunt the living. We must remember the price of conflict and strive to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Deep in the forests of Belgium, an abandoned World War II bunker lay hidden, long forgotten by time. During the war, it had been a strategic point for soldiers, a place filled with both hope and horror. Years later, a group of young historians set out to explore the site, intrigued by the stories of battles fought within its walls. Among them was Michael, a passionate history student eager to uncover the truth. As they entered the bunker, the air grew cold, and an unsettling silence enveloped them. The walls were adorned with faded photographs and graffiti, remnants of the past that spoke of despair. They set up their equipment, documenting their findings. But as night fell, an oppressive darkness settled over them. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from deeper within the bunker. The group froze, exchanging nervous glances. "Probably just a loose piece of metal," Michael suggested, trying to ease the tension. But deep down, he felt a knot forming in his stomach. Curiosity got the better of them, and they ventured further into the darkness. As they moved deeper, they began to hear whispers, frantic voices pleading for help. "Help us! We're trapped," the voices echoed through the narrow corridors. Michael's heart raced as he pressed forward, feeling an inexplicable urge to find the source. The group entered a small chamber, its walls lined with rusted metal. In the center, they found an old map covered in strange markings. But what caught their attention was the chilling sight of bloodstains on the floor. Michael knelt down, feeling a wave of nausea wash over him. Suddenly, one of the members, Sarah, screamed. She pointed toward the shadows, where a figure began to materialize, a soldier, gaunt and hollow-eyed. "Leave this place," the soldier shouted, his voice filled with agony. The group panicked, scrambling back toward the entrance. As they ran, the whispers grew louder, filled with rage and despair. "Why won't you help us?" they cried. Michael felt a pull, as if the spirits were trying to drag him back. But he fought against it, pushing through the fear. They finally burst through the entrance, gasping for air. The forest felt alive with tension as they stumbled away from the bunker. But the haunting whispers followed them, echoing in their minds. "Help us! We're still trapped." Years later, Michael could still hear the voices in his dreams, calling out for justice. He dedicated his life to researching the stories of the soldiers who had died in that bunker, uncovering the horrors they faced. But no matter how much he learned, he knew he could never escape the guilt of not helping them. Moral: the past can haunt us in ways we least expect, reminding us of the suffering that lingers in forgotten places. In seeking to understand history, we must also confront the shadows it casts, for every story deserves to be told and every voice deserves to be heard. These three disturbing World War horror stories remind us of the profound impacts of war on both the living and the dead. The echoes of suffering, loss, and injustice can linger long after the battles have ended, leaving behind shadows that can haunt future generations. The moral of these stories serves as a stark reminder that we must honor those who suffered, strive to protect the innocent, and ensure that history is not forgotten. In the face of darkness, compassion and empathy are the guiding lights that can lead us toward healing. This collection of stories, each with its chilling encounters and moral lessons, aims to engage listeners deeply while shedding light on the human experience during the horrors of war.